Now, Wayne, I'm curious. Did you wake up one morning and decide you were going to be a horn player, or how did you begin this life in music, and specifically as a horn player?
I think it evolved by default almost. My mother was a pianist, very good pianist, as a matter of fact, and a very good ear. And in 1933, it was, about 1933, there was a local orchestra downtown in Worcester, Massachusetts, and my father was playing a little bit of bassoon, and they both had always been in music. They wanted to be working together, so she started practicing on a horn. She bought a horn, started practicing on it. And before too long, it was inevitable that I picked up the horn and started blowing on it, and managed to do it reasonably well with no serious intent. And this went on for 2 or 3 years, and I didn't have any ambitions about practicing one way or another, but my mother could hear that there was some ability there, so she kind of pushed me to do it. And about age 13, I started getting more serious at it. My mother was taking lessons downtown in Boston with Valkenier and Walter McDonald, who was second horn with Boston. And gradually I became more proficient at it, started practicing more seriously at it, and all through high school. And in 1942 spring, when I was just approaching graduating from high school, the question came, well, Wayne, what are you going to do when you graduate from high school? So we discussed doing engineering, as my father was, electrical engineer, or doctoring work, and that didn't appeal to me, and various other things, none of which seemed to have a very exciting appeal. So it came down to, well, what about music? And I decided, well, that sounds pretty good to me. So in a sense, it wasn't almost so much by election as by default.
Tell us a little bit about Valkenier. He was your teacher at
Valkenier Willem. It's a Dutch name, Willem. It's not William, it's Willem. And he spoke with a very Dutch accent. He was very beloved by all the young women, the girls, and so on. He was not a ladies' man, but he had a great appeal to women because he was so gallant, and he'd bow a little bit in the old world way. And a very knowledgeable, very, very knowledgeable, enlightened person. He had a library of hundreds and hundreds of books, all of which he had read. I felt obliged to him. I felt I was being given gifts, and not meaning to reflect on myself, but I know, and it was a very conscious thing I did. After every single lesson I had, I said, thank you.
Exploring some of the roots of tonight's guest, Wayne Barrington. We heard his teacher and mentor, Willem Valkenier, in that beautiful horn solo from the slow movement of Tchaikovsky's Fifth Symphony. Along with Mr. Valkenier, the Boston Symphony Orchestra, Serge Koussevitzky conducting a recording made in 1944.